engineers will be here to
Okay, and
do
I'll
that
start the questions on this, and I'll open it up to the council.
Okay.
We were promised that it would be finished back in February and then back in March and be ready for the grand opening. What was the holdup, and why is the work back there so rushed and so poorly done?
The holdup, I mean, we had the facility ready for the grand opening. That actually, the holdup was the last minute thing that Little League Association didn't approve the bases that we had. That was the thing that stopped it at that very moment, basically. Since then, we had a big rush to get ready for that event, and so we put all of our resources, all of our people in getting prepared for that. Whenever after that event was finished, we were able to pull back and finish up the things that needed to be finished up and work on. We've been in punch list for probably the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We should be finishing that up within a week. It all should all be done. We've gone through 3 different punch lists. We've had a punch list from DDC. We had a punch list from the city. Both of those, there was a lot of duplicates on those. We've been working through those punch lists. They've been presented what has been complete. They've been walked through, and then we have what I assume is the final punch list right now that we just received today. That's the last little bits. Probably a couple of 2 or 3 days worth of work, and all that stuff is complete.
Any other comments by the council for Councilman Nissen?
Yes.
So we have not signed for the park yet.
No, correct, yes.
So why are we out there with our parks crew maintaining it and spraying for weeds? And weeding it when you're supposed to maintain it and have it ready for us?
Well, we've done the maintenance stuff on it. I mean, the spraying the weeds aspect of it, that goes over in maintenance. So whenever you guys take it over, so kind of we were at a point where it needed to be done. We were a couple of weeks out from being complete, so they went and sprayed for sticker burrs.
So we haven't signed for it though.
That's correct. Yes.
So we shouldn't be out there doing maintenance until we sign for it.
I mean, the spraying of the sticker burrs basically took place. I wasn't aware that was even taking place. I was informed after the fact that was done.
Plus, the lawnmowers have been out there for 2 or 3 days. The weed eater's been out there for 2 or 3 days.
I'm not familiar with that situation. That they've been. I mean, I know
they have pictures to prove it.
Oh no, I don't disagree with you, but I mean that wasn't per my request.
That was per my request, Councilman, if I may. So when I did some walking through with other landscapers, sticker burrs is not something that necessarily I do, but they said that we needed to get ahead of the game so that we can be able to do so, because if we keep cutting, and it's not in his contract to spray or weed or anything in reference to bugs, and there's some virants and some things such as that, so that we can be able to do that. We don't want to cut it and then spread the sticker burrs even further. So we did spray. The city did spray it so that we could start getting ahead of the game, because the season's there. We also need to prepare for sometime in July, early July, football will start. And so we need to be able to address those fields before it gets out of hand. So that's why staff is out there doing that.
Was it us to put the roads in and gravel the roads too?
That's not part of the contract to do the gravel the roads, just prepare the roads. And so they're preparing that. We also are preparing because we have an event here on the 29th and the 30th of this month, and we're going to play on those fields, and so we need to make sure those fields will be ready. Councilman Jones?
Have you personally walked out there?
A lot, yes.
No, I don't think you have. I'd like to take you out there and show you how you pull your rock around the concession stand. You can literally grab it and pull them off the wall. That's the sorriest job I've ever seen.
The rock
the whole
big,
inside of that building is disgusting. Your electrical, your wires have been around. I've never seen such shoddy work. I don't really think you walked out there.
Oh, I've been out there
a
good bit. Yes, sir, I have.
No, you haven't. I'd like to take you out there now.
Mayor,
you know,
Okay, hold on.
Can I say something?
Hold on, wait. Guys, this floor is still with Councilman Jones.
I'll walk in several times.
I will, and I'll keep it in line too.
With respect to the weeks. And, you know, have you looked at just the rock work on the concession stand?
The rock work is still to be addressed. I mean, that's the rock work is, from the city standpoint, is complete. From my standpoint of getting it to where it needs to be is not complete.
You almost have to start.
It was a very poor job. It was a very poor job. It was.
The seating around some of the yards, somebody just took some foam and just, have you seen that? They've done that.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
There's some sealing around different joints, trying to seal up that building. It's just really done, there's a major, lot of work needs to be done to it.
Sure.
Even to the shading areas over the bleachers, they're put up crooked. Have you seen that?
Oh, that the shade posts are crooked?
Yeah.
I know, I haven't noticed that the shade.
They're all.
And that was, when we started in the punch list, you know, my request to the city was to provide me a list of everything. That's what punch list is for. That's the first I've ever heard of that. So my request is to tell me everything that needs to be fixed. The rock is not the first I've heard of that. That's been up front and center, certainly.
Okay, Councilwoman Cantu?
No, I was just gonna say that, yes, the baseball field was delayed, but it was because, you know, the contract was stopped, we had to redo the contract, and then, because the checks weren't signed,
No,
that was
ma'am.
another delay. So,
There were a lot of delays. There's no question. But and I think the time frame. I think usually an estimated completion time on a project like this is 2 years. We're going to come in well under that. You know, our engineer, which he'll present when he comes to sign it off as complete. When we were talking this last week, he said, well, what's the feeling? And I said, well, there's some issues with the rock. It's certainly an issue. There's a few things that need to be addressed. And I said, oh, what's that?
Less drainage on
I'm sorry?
the drainage for the baseball fields.
The drainage on the little t-ball fields in the back.
No, the big fields too.
I mean, what specifically is not operating?
When it rained 2 inches here the other day, the fields were flooding. The drainage just wasn't correct.
Well, I mean, if you get 2 inches of rain, the fields will flood, but if they drain, then the drainage is operating. I mean, you have flat spots on the side, so if you get a big rain, they'll hold water, but if the water exits and doesn't sit out and dry, then that's what the drainage is trying to
Was
do.
it made for the drainage to go over the sidewalks
Instead
of under?
In places it can if you get a torrential rain. I mean, they're engineered for you know, for typical rain basically. And I know I've been here during some enormous rains, and the catch basins work, the drainage plan overall works, but it can't get swamped with the huge rain. And really and truly, that's not to pass off anything, but we build what the engineers design. I don't lay out drainage. They tell me how to do drainage. That's above my pay grade.
Who would be responsible for it if it doesn't drain right?
The engineers
and washes
will be. Yeah.
the baseball fields out? How long are warranties on something like that?
I mean, our workmanship warranty is a year. Your warranty with the engineer is something different than me, because basically it has to last. And so the drainage issue specifically, when he comes back to present, would be a good thing for you to address with him, because we build it as they tell us to.
Even the quality of the building, stuff like that?
You can address, yeah, I mean, you can address that with me, but you can certainly address any of that with him.
We do the crooked flagpole inside the street.
I think the flagpole's straight. I think it tapers to the top, and so it's. We can, absolutely, yes, sir. I'd be more than happy to.
Even to the entrance, you know, even the wood that's used to put it up, a lot of it's rotten already. Have you looked at that?
Which wood?
Where you walk into the sidewalk going up to the oak tree.
The fencing
Yeah, the fencing on this plan. It's the decorative.
is rotten.
Yeah, yes it is.
Well, I mean, it's
Well,
trees and
you know,
cedar. I mean, it was brand new fence when it was put up. It has had hardly any rain on it to this point. But we can certainly
They
look at
could be
it.
something for you to look at.
Sure, absolutely. Not a problem.
Some of the concrete work is, especially under the pavilion, is that floor supposed to be that rough?
Under the pavilion, it is. It's a rough brush finish, because under that pavilion is actually a batting cage, and so it's there to provide texture whenever they are pushing off and playing baseball in it.
It's pretty rough.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Councilman Jimenez. And
What-
to the microphone now.
My question to you is, what are the things that you're looking at, or what you're fixing right now, so that we won't have to be asking you all these other questions?
Absolutely. The biggest, the most issues that are left on the punch list right now are the building. The rock work on the building, some of the caulking on the building, some of the sealing on the building, the doors. That's probably the largest part of the punch list that we have remaining. The rest of it are simple fix type, typical punch list items that are easy to fix. The building getting it to where it needs to be and finishing it up, that's my biggest job priority to complete the punch list, absolutely.
And when do you foresee finishing or completing?
I mean,
building the rock and everything else? Mr. John's asked.
Yeah, I mean, the building itself will have to, the building itself, all the inside of it, I don't think we have more than a week worth of work to get all that stuff complete. The rock, we're gonna have to come up with a secondary plan, basically. My budget is complete on the rock, so basically the completion of the rock and the fixing of the rock comes out of Heartland's pocket. So I have to come up with contractors that can give me advice on, this is how it can be fixed. It needs to be demoed, whatever the solution is, and we go after that solution. I'm not happy with it. You guys aren't happy with it. We're all in the same boat on that, absolutely. So we're going to get it fixed right. Is the end goal.
In my opinion, every time you come with an update, it's been another excuse, one right after the other. All the delays. I got blamed for a delay because of non-payment, which was not true. You even said that in one of the meetings. I think it was in January or February. But ultimately, every time you come, there's been a date that it's going to be finished, and it's going to be finished. And you just mentioned the fact that the Little League couldn't play on it because of an issue. Well, we have members of the Little League here. I'd like to hear from them on why they couldn't play on these fields on that dedication weekend. So I'm going to ask if they would like to speak to the council pertaining to this. If they do not, then I'll.
And I can speak to that. I mean, the number one. The last time I was here with City Council, the big discussion that we had was pigs. That was the big problem that we had. Hogs. Sorry, hogs. That had come across the river and had destroyed the fields. At that point, we were in the process of fixing the fields, and I was at a fork in the road. I could either completely regrade the fields, destroy the fields basically, and build them again, or I could go through and try and patch the fields. I'm not interested in leaving you guys with something that's not going to work, so we went in, we regraded, completely broke down the fields, and built the fields back up. That's at no additional expense. That was on my expense because we wanted to make sure that it was done correct. So when at the time of the grand opening, I had just demoed all the fields. We had maybe 2 or 3 weeks worth of adequate sunshine and water on the fields to get what grass up that we had gotten up. The grass now has come up beautifully with time, as it does and as it will continue to. But from my standpoint, that was the biggest obstacle because we had dirty fields at that point in time with a little bit of grass. And my comments to Ms. Turner, to other people that we discussed, is that it would have been a really bad idea to even get as much grass as we could to start playing on it, because we would have devastated the fields. They would have had to have been done all over again due to the lack of vegetation on the fields. It would have been very difficult on them to play on. And I think that was a wise move that they weren't played on. I think the fields now are in fantastic shape. We're full of grass. We have all the stuff in there that we need to. From my standpoint, as the person who was in charge of building it, that was the biggest obstacle on grand opening day. The bases were something that could have been worked around, but the fields had to be redone, essentially. And that was an act of God. There was nothing I could have done about the pigs. They came and did what they did, and they did. The hogs did. We call them pigs in East Texas, but they did a heck of a job on those fields, and we got the pigs back, which is something that I'm happy with to be able to leave.
A couple of years ago, when this project was in the beginning stages and proposal, I remember being at meetings where the Little League was the instrumental part of the decision to go forward with this. I don't know if the representatives would like to speak at this particular moment, but here's your opportunity if the Little League would like to say something to the council.
Floresville Little League president. It kind of bothered me a little bit what Sean said, because we were promised parks in front of all y'all several times that they'll be done by opening day. I've given numerous calls to Ms. Turner, Monica, hey, where's Sean? Nobody's working on these parks. Over and over and over. Oh, he's going to be here, he's going to be here. Well, 2 weeks out, that's when he told me he was going to show up. And I was talking to people, and I kept on asking him. I asked Ms. Turner, I said, what do you vision for this park when the opening day comes here? And she's like, oh, it's gonna be pretty, grass, everything. I said, there's no way you're gonna have grass grow that quick. You're gonna have to bring turf, roll it out, you know, big stuff, and get that grass done. No, it's gonna be done, I promise you, it's gonna be pretty, it's gonna be great. So I had to follow in with that. Of course, they weren't done. Bases were wrong. I'd send him the correct bases, and he got those. But either way, it didn't work out. We made a plan for that night to still have the field ready. We were going to go rip the bases from the bottom fields out. They were seaming it in. We were able to work it out where we could have played up there, but it's still, there was no grass. A bunch of the coaches complained. Parents that came up there that night to get the fields ready for opening day, and they were like, we can't play on this. And I had numerous talks with Mr. Ortiz about it, and it just wasn't going to work. The backstops were not done. I don't even know if they're still done. Painted, anything. The backstops were just put up real quick. They would not have been field ready to play. So it kind of bothers me to say that Little League is the one that stopped the grand opening. And that's where I'm at with that. I still don't believe in any of these dates. I know they're saying they have these dates set up for these softball games. I'd love to see it happen. I'd love to see select ball out there, or, you know, bringing adult softball and making, you know, where the city can use those fields and benefit from those fields. But it doesn't seem like we're going to get our money back anytime soon with the use of those fields. So for me, it's very upsetting to keep coming here and hearing that. I just think we need better management. So I know she, one of our other representatives is here, and she can kind of tell you a little bit more too, as well as what she thought.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michelle Mora. Fairly new to the Little League and have been kind of adopted in by the rest of the board members as well as with Troy. I guess one of the things I would like to know is there's some timelines with regard to project management, and I can't find on a website where this time schedule is, and I would like to know that, and I would like to have it available so everybody can follow. The other thing is, I spoke with Troy and about the bases. You know, it was mentioned to the Floresville Little League within that week before opening day that the bases weren't approved, or you're already rushing it. So that's already a rush job. When you rush things, everyone knows it's going to have more opportunity to founder. So I guess it's just a better situation for everybody to be able to know what the project time schedule is. I have a history of project management, so part of our projects, we have to have this 18-month to 2-year time schedule. We have to develop it. It has to be on a public website so everybody can see it. And I can't find that. If it's out there, please let us all know so we can monitor it as well. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you.
If I can respond back to Mr. Tackett, that if the idea was put out that the Little League, you know, canceled Christmas, that was not anything that came from me. I mean, there were options that we could have worked on. There were things that we could have done to make it happen, but the decision was made. The base situation was found at I don't know what, probably 7 o'clock when they came the day before to do the Little League walkthrough, and we discovered the base issue. And at that point, I just knew anything temporary we were going to do was going to damage the fields even further. The decision was made not to do the games on the fields that day, and so and it's just my opinion, but from my opinion, they certainly aren't the villain in that particular situation.
Any other comments by the council? Mr. Decker?
I know he also said the fields were done.
No, you have to come to the mic so that we can have it recorded.
One other question is, I know he said the fields were done, so that's what y'all all heard. I heard it back there. How are the fields done? Lights. We had games scheduled for 7 o'clock at night. We got told Friday night that there was no lights out there. So the fields were not necessarily done, the park was not done. There's more to the whole story than what everybody's getting, you know. It's here and there, and like I said, I think this needs to be managed better, a whole lot better. I don't know who's in charge of it, or who's gonna take charge of it. I've tried with Ms. Turner, she hasn't done her part of doing that, to keep on him, to get his job done. So I just ask that, again, can we get somebody, if it's Mr. Jimenez, Mr. Johns, to hold him to these timetables and make sure some kind of work's being done out there. It's not put off, oh, well, we got a due date here, we're gonna come out 2 weeks prior and make sure it's done. No, you got great weather right now, let's do it now. And that's one thing I want to bring up. The field was not done, and the lights were not ready that night. I believe they just got done maybe a week or two ago, not long ago. So I just want to also bring that up as well.
Thank you. Councilman Johns, you're up.
I'd like to ask one more question to you. Before you were here, you said it's going to be turnkey. Explain turnkey to me. Turnkey ready.
Turnkey ready?
I know when you do a car, turnkey ready, it's ready, turnkey is.
Right. Yes, sir.
I want to hear what you explain. Explain to me what turnkey is.
Well, I mean, turnkey is whenever it's 100% complete and I give it to you, it's in fully operational, ready to go. No more issues.
Well, you promised that a couple months ago.
Well, if I promised it, I didn't meet the promise.
There.
Okay.
But, you know, still, as of, it's about 2 weeks ago, that they were finally painting backstops, you know. Then, you know, really, I would like to walk you through that place, because I really don't think you have. I don't,
Sure.
you know,
That's fair
I've
enough.
asked Ms. Turner to go with me, but she never has.
Well, you asked me the day I was off, and I told you it was
But
late.
it just would have taken 30 minutes.
Okay.
So-
Yes, but I was not working that day. I
That's
came for a
fine.
special meeting for that day.
But yes, no, certainly, I'll would be, when we do 100% complete walkthrough, when I turn it, I'll welcome you to be there to point out any, you know, insufficiencies to me. Because that's the point of a punch list walkthrough, is for, if you say, this isn't right, I've got to fix that before I turn it over 100%. That's the difficult part at the end.
Okay, Councilman Jimenez?
Yes, so when do you think you're gonna have everything finished, or if you're gonna do anything on the rock around the building? Are you gonna come back?
I am going to do on the
Come
rock.
back, or are you gonna
Yes, sir.
finish before?
If I can come up with a reasonable remedy for the rock, as soon as I come up with, I get a proper remedy, I'm going to execute the remedy on the rock. There's no question about it. So I have to get what's the best way to do it. I don't know if the best way to fix the rock is to demo the rock and to start over on it, or if there is some sort of a fix in it. I'm not a masonry expert, and so I have to have these experts propose to me what's the best way to go about this. I don't know if it can be fixed. I don't know if it's unstacked and took apart and restacked, or what the best solution is to get it fixed.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, another one. What time frame do you think it's gonna take you to have it completely 100% before, say you do get phase 2? Are you ready for that phase 2 already, or are you not gonna?
No, we are ready for phase 2. I mean, my punch list crew that's working is not the same crew that would be starting phase 2. So we stay on this and finish. And the good thing about moving to phase 2 is that we're here and available. So if we walk and if we find something else, we can fix anything else, because it's a large site, it's a big construction project. They take some time to grow in. If I'm not here, I'm still here to fix if things mess up. But you know, the best case scenario, the way that the situation was laid out, was that we could be here if something happens, we could address it immediately.
Okay, so I think on the second phase, you have a timeline.
Yes.
So is that going to affect you finishing this and starting the other?
Not at all, no sir. We have a complete right date on the contract for the second phase, for the grant phase, which is 10 months from contract. I think the lawyers have to review. They sign a contract, and then I have 10 months from that to finish. I have liquidated damages after that. I believe it's $250 a day over that timeline. But no, it's not. The two wouldn't be in conflict with each other.
I say something about that?
Hold on, Councilman Nissen had raised his hand.
Yes, sir.
Does the masonry work for your company or do you sub them out?
It was a local, I would say,
Well, they subbed out?
we subbed it out, yes, sir.
Don't they carry a bond?
I carry a bond. I mean, I'm gonna fix it. I mean, if
Well, how come you don't get the people who did it, come back and fix it?
Be-
Go after their
Because
bond?
with the work that they did, I would rather them not do the fix work. I would rather them not touch it again, to be
Go
honest.
after their bond, pay for it, and get it done right.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take care of that behind the scenes, but it's my responsibility, so I'm not gonna bore y'all with how I go about that. But you know, the idea of calling them and telling them come back and fix it is not satisfactory.
Councilman Ortiz?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to agree with Troy Tackett and Ms. Mora that they are disappointed, and I was there, you know, the last 3 weeks right for the grand opening and all that. And, you know, they were just one hiccup after the other. And yes, the company said it was going to be done this day and everything. To my expectation, they didn't meet that criteria. But I saw them trying to come up with a solution, but it was just one delay after another. And I have to ask the council that when this project started, I was on the council and I was, you know, for the financing. And there was supposed to be a committee, a committee about, I can't recall, about 10 or 15 individuals that were supposed to communicate with the council and the community. And that's what I think that happened here. You know, nobody applied any pressure to Heartland, and Ms. Turner was busy. You know, she has a lot of work, but I agree that this project has to be supervised by somebody that is going to be going there, coming to the council and telling us, no, this is what's going on. Don't believe him, you know, or he's doing a good job with the good contact. That council has to be assured that it's working. Because let me tell you, it didn't work. There were some headaches that last week, I saw it, me and the baseball committee, it wasn't
It was
fun.
a difficult couple
Yes,
of weeks.
yes, and that's what I just said, that it was, you know, it was chaos. Everybody pushing, and last night, you know. But now that we have to move on forward, I mean, you know, what's happened, let's learn from it. Let's get this committee, let's talk with the community to come over here too, and the council to go out there and see. I've seen it, that rock.
It's bad.
You know, there was a lot of things that I do with,
That's not
and yeah.
Okay, let's, one at a time. One
Okay,
at a time.
go ahead, Johnson.
No, Councilman, are you through, Councilman?
Well, I mean, I never interrupt anybody.
That's why I stopped it. That's why I stopped it. The floor is still yours if you like it, but Mr. Jimenez had raised his hand.
Whomever, I'm good.
Councilman Jimenez?
See, I don't make excuses for people or anything, but
I've never made any excuses.
no, nobody's saying that. I'm saying what happened here for about a month and a half, we had a run of all the fields, of everything. Them hogs came in, they tore up every single thing. All the fields, not just one or two, all of it. Even towards the vet center and everywhere else. Hey, we had to fix everything. So everything was kind of chaos there for a while till they got everything settled. But I mean, things happen, and, you know, I'm not talking for nobody or anything, I'm just saying that, I agree that what you said about the building, that needs to be fixed, addressed, the whole thing, you know, but, that's part of the problem, and he's addressing it, and he addressed the hogs. Now, they start